Hey, I'm back. I'm going to do some fit and finish work and clean up some of these edges, get rid of my pen lines, maybe wash some of this ink out of the hide, and I don't know, clean up a bunch of these edges. I've got a bunch of tools that I generally use to do this. I'll show you some of those and then I'll get to work. This is obviously an edge burnisher or slicking tool, or I mean, you could call it a whole bunch of things. I call it a burnisher. Generally, you rub these grooves along the edges here, and what it does is it smooths it out a whole bunch, rounds them out, seals the end grain of the leather so it's not all spiky and sticking out. A lot of times to assist with that process, I'll use liquid like water. Sometimes if I want black edges, I actually color it with a Sharpie, just a few segments at a time, and I'll slick it out and make sure it looks pretty good. This thing, pretty incredible. This is an edge cutting tool, I guess, whatever. You push this in and it actually, here I'll show you just a little bit, it cuts that edge off. I would prefer to show you while I'm braced for it. I'm not prepared. If I had a support for this right now, it would be a little easier to do that. But essentially, while I'm working this, I'll go through and I will edge the whole thing until it's nice and smooth all the way around. Hopefully I won't gouge into the surface too much, because you can leave some pretty decent impressions. But, you know, as long as you're fairly gentle with it and you maintain a pretty decent pressure while you're moving. Come on, here we go. Yeah, all right, that's gonna be a little tough up there. Sorry, it looks pretty okay. Anyway, that's I'm gonna do some more of that in a minute. Other tools are X-Actos. You get nice little breakable blades. They've actually, this is one of the best cutting tools that I've found. You get about that much out and you press straight into whatever you're working on, and you can cut really, really nice corners. I'll probably go in and clean some of this up with that. And for the spots that I can't quite do with a knife, I have these tiny little files here. There's a little bit of crud on them because I use them for all sorts of stuff, including metal. But I'll be able to get in here nice and good, like, you know. Clean all of this up, get a nice, flat, smooth appearance. And then I'll scrape the top of that with this knife. See the difference already? And just do a little bit more of that and take some time and maybe flatten out some of these cuts here to make it just look better all around. And then again, all of this is going to get touched over time. Again, the box file is a nice tool. For larger surfaces, you can use like a round file. I like the really fine grit ones. If you use a super rough abrasive, it actually pulls the hairs back up on the leather. I've got this nice round file as well for, say, if I wanted to clean those inside corners out just a little bit, I can shred the inside of that so that that folds just a little bit cleaner and tighter, and it doesn't look as bad. Right, the corner looks more crispy when you clean the burrs out. Yeah, so and there are definitely more tools. You can use other tools. I have an assortment of dowel rods. I use sandpaper. Some people have been prone to use these drill-bound edging tools. I've never actually opened this. I've had it for a little while now, and I have never found myself actually in the mood to use a drill-mounted deburring or whatever buffing tool, like tried and true, old trusty. I've used this one for quite a few projects. Sometimes it does help. You'll notice the screw here. I'll mount it in a bench vise if I'm doing something like a long belt, and I can run the edges pretty decently across this when it's not in hand. But if you clamp on this side, you know, you mess it up, and then you can't use this as a slicker. Since I never really found myself digging and palming materials, you know, I figured it'd be nice to mount it and, you know, give it a little bit of an angle so that you can really get your, you know, get your edges in on it. Works pretty good. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start working on this, and I will shut up again. This is a cool example of where I'm going to use something maybe a little different than I would normally use. I'm going to use a rounding punch. I'll be right back. The tool I'm going to use in this instance has a nice little hole, and it is a beveled piece of steel that screws into another piece of steel, and it's got this channel where the cuttings punch out when you're done with them. And what I want to do is I'm going to bite cleanly into this top edge, and I'm going to try to hammer in and down so I can pinch this leather flat straight off. It'll leave a couple ridges, but then I'll clean that up, and this will be very, very surprisingly smooth. I want it like this side, but it's kind of jutty here, and if I try to cut this with a razor blade, I'm going to fail. I'm going to grab another piece of blocking as well. This is a piece of hardwood. I'm pretty sure it was refuse from a floor demonstration. I also don't know if you've been catching the glimpse of my hat bill. I have now removed my hat. You'll probably see that in most of my other videos if you've caught any of my stuff. How am I going to prop this up? Probably right here. See, this is kind of where I would go to the bench vise, but I don't necessarily want to spend all the time over there. Maybe I can just punch this out by hand. Not quite. Okay, I'll be right back. Right, so just nibbled at the thicker chunky material right there through the side, and now that it's nice and available, I'm just going to give it a couple of these right here, whatever you want to call these. Cool. Now it's roughly the same height there. I should be able to edge like normal. And what I'm doing is I'm actually using my thumb to nudge the tip of this tool along while I'm holding the holster with my fingers, and that really helps get some good precise movements down. And I'm not at risk because this isn't sharp either. I mean, it could be if you really started jabbing, but the blade is way deep inside of there. And you can actually, I use sandpaper every now and then. I'll fold probably a little bit finer grit than this, but I'll fold it over just like that, and you can sharpen your blade. Maybe give it once over in the opposite direction. Here, I'll show you a different spot. I think I was having trouble on the strap earlier. I'm going to leave that alone for now. I'll mess with that side of the strap, I don't care. All right. Yeah, this is where I was just at with. I'm going to try and open that up a little bit. Shave some of the top off. Try and get in that angle. There we go. Look at that. part out, some over the inside here. I really like beveling the inside of the holster because that's where that's where all the action's at. That's where all of the stuffing motions are happening. That's where, I mean, to be honest, that's where the magic happens. The outside, I don't know, I kind of like a pretty look. You see how pretty that's starting to look? Nice, smooth. I really like that because it keeps the finish on whatever you're working with a little bit cleaner. And then, again, anytime you can keep these end grains from popping up and ruining your day, try, because they'll work against you the whole time. You see those double cuts there? I'm just going to sand those out because that is obnoxious to me. See how that folded the opposite direction? There we go. Stop doing that to me. I'm trying to have a good time. I'm not trying to fight with you. See if I can come from the opposite direction. Clean some of that off. Just a little bit. Look at that. Most of the way gone. I could probably cut this in a little bit more because that's the inside, but my finger will go there. Actually, it's this finger. Will go right there when getting the object out of this. That's pretty. It's a pretty decent indicator of how that goes and how long it takes. I'm going to pause this video and make sure that my phone's not going to quit recording on me because I'm pretty new to this. So we'll see how the video's going, and then I'll be right back.